Hello, Upper Iowa students. Becky here, coming to you in week 4. I'm excited about this week's content, talking to you guys about the 4 themes, 4 essential skills of school counselors when it comes to advocacy, collaboration, leadership, all to create positive systemic change. I'm going to present to you guys today and then teach you through an instructor video. I would encourage you to use the slideshow to follow along. Like I said, coming to you today, talking to you in week 4 about school counselor essential skills. I have presented on the essential skills at the ISCA conference back, a few years ago. And so this is obviously something I'm very passionate about too, and just helping school counselors learn and thrive within these essential skills as we continue to be a work in progress. I feel like we are always working as school counselors because we are lifelong learners. We are always continually learning how to be better leaders, to be better collaborators, better advocates, and how we can become more aware, but use our position, our unique position as school counselors to create systemic change. Here we go, weeks 4 focus with the 4 major themes, essential skills, like I've already shared. You guys will eventually get to the discussion questions. Also, as part of this is the leadership practices article. Okay, so the 4 themes of leadership, advocacy, collaboration, and systemic change no longer appear around the edge of the national model diamond, but instead are woven throughout the model to show that they are integral components of a comprehensive school counseling program. As you guys can see on the left, that is the 3rd edition national model emblem of sorts, where you can see the 4 themes, like I said, around the border. But now with the 4th edition, now you will read within the Ask a Book how these 4 themes are kind of interwoven into each of the themes. Implementing the Ask a National model requires leadership, advocacy, and collaboration with a focus on systemic change and outcomes. Examples of the theme, like I said, are highlighted throughout the text that you guys are reading for this course to give practical examples of how the theme relates to that section specifically. All right, so ASCA incorporates the 4 themes as part of the framework they used to around the emblem of the national model. And again, to show its repetition in the graphic was essentially to indicate the importance of these essential skills as part of the school counselor's work. Through application of these essential skills as part of a comprehensive school counseling program, we as school counselors are promoting student achievement and systemic change that ensures equity and access to rigorous education for every student. Again, you're going to see how this aligns with our school counselor competencies. This would be something that we would see in the professional standards. So that we're serving as leaders in the school and community, that we are advocates for our students to succeed, collaborating with parents, teachers, administrators, all these great stakeholders and others to promote and support student success, but also acting as a systems change agent to create an environment where we promote and support student success overall. I think it's important to think beyond the delivery of our direct and indirect services and really consider how our school counseling program intentionally employs these essential skills and how it benefits students within our building and within their student needs. I really think the big questions that we as school counselors should reflect upon and continually work to answer is how our school's comprehensive school counseling program, how it uses leadership, advocacy, and collaboration to create systemic change for the benefit of students. It'd be interesting how if you ask school counselors what they would say and what could next steps be. I also think the question is twofold. Instead of always asking ourselves as school counselors how we're growing in these areas, I also think it's important for school counselors to reflect and to implement ways that we're providing a platform for students to also lead, advocate, and collaborate to create positive change for the benefit of their peers, as well as their school culture, building culture. And honestly, in our role as school counselors, we role model these essential skills, but also, like I said, provide a platform where they're learning how to do this themselves in collaboration with us. Leadership is essential for school counselors as they develop and manage a school counseling program. The other themes require leadership to some degree. Therefore, leadership may be the foundation of the other essential skills needed for program implementation. It's kind of like the base. School counseling leadership supports academic achievement, student development. It advances effective delivery of the comprehensive school counseling program. It promotes professional identity. It overcomes challenges of role inconsistency. ASCA has provided leadership context identified by Bowman and Deal. And if they are still in the book, they are identifying 4 contexts as structural leadership, human resource leadership, political leadership, and symbolic leadership. And you guys can obviously read the screen, so you can pause to read those a little bit more. I'm not going to read them word for word, but all to kind of look at in context of how ASCA is talking about leadership and discussing it as our role as school counselors. All right, so continuing with leadership. Leadership enhances school counselors' ability to implement and sustain data-driven comprehensive school counseling programs. Counselors as leaders are skilled at counseling, advocating, teaming, and collaborating using data to promote student success. I think that utilizing effective school counseling leadership skills requires us to be visionary thinkers, that we challenge inequities. We are in the shared collective process of decision-making, that we're also collaboratively processing, making decisions, modeling excellence, and taking a courageous stance where needed. I think if you think about leadership and the component manage, having a vision is a characteristic of effective leadership. Articulating that vision motivations, that a vision motivates followers to accomplish a goal and work cohesively toward a shared purpose. School counselors demonstrate leadership in a school counseling program by developing vision and mission statements that align the school counseling program with the school's vision and mission. Without this leadership, the school counseling program is disconnected to the overall mission of the school. School counselors demonstrate leadership by systematically selecting and delivering activities and interventions, addressing a wide variety of mindsets and behaviors informed by school data and building needs. Although not all of the mindsets and behaviors can be addressed in a single year or within a single developmental stage, such as elementary, junior high, middle school, or high school, we as school counselors look for ways to deliver as many standards as possible for as many students as possible. School counselors participate in the school improvement process to bring the school counseling perspective to the development of all school goals. When you think about leadership and the component deliver, school counselors engage in thoughtful, intentional approaches around the selection of strategies, activities, lessons, interventions by focusing on the ASCA mindsets and behaviors for student success to inform the implementation of a comprehensive school counseling program. These are examples of how I'm answering that twofold question, how I, as a counselor, am working to provide a platform for students to become great leaders. And these are pictures of my school group, small group lead, actually I should say a large group, and girls leadership. So LEAD stands for loving everything about differences. Not only is LEAD about developing young women as leaders, but also encouraging their peers. They put on kind of a shared presentation, kind of a group, small group of sorts within all of our 7th grade girls and 8th grade girls, and do presentations, personal stories, good discussion questions, things like that. So again, being able to help facilitate and collaborate with them fosters their leadership development and only makes me a better leader as well. Continuing on with leadership, here are some other ideas to grow as a leader for yourself. School counselors can join the building leadership team, district committees like the safety committee, equity committee. You can present as part of your professional development for staff within building faculty meetings. You could work to present as a professional development for fellow counselors, maybe through our AEA, through the ISCA conference and beyond. You could present program components to a school board or even present a K-12 program to the school board. And you can consider ramping. So that's working towards being a recognized ASCA model program as determined by ASCA. And so obviously if you are earning or working towards RAMP designation, that means you are exemplifying the national model, the ASCA national model within your school counseling program. Other ideas for students, continuing to do student leadership groups, offering opportunities for them to serve as peer mentors. doing student-led initiatives where they're teaching their peers, because sometimes they can do that better than us adults at times. Having students lead lessons in classroom discussions, maybe it's the social emotional learning lesson each week, or other things within peer mentors that they're leading that class discussion on. When we look at leadership, this is how they determined in a rubric for school counselors. If we look at the school counseling evaluation supplement, what makes us highly effective as leaders all the way to ineffective. So obviously we're always working towards being highly effective as school leaders, that we're actively involved at teams in the building and district level and even beyond our state level, that we're visible in the community groups and activities, use our stakeholders in the community, that we're demonstrating personal and professional qualities and skills. So now moving on to a really cool graphic from Hatching Results, Trish Hatch, who founded Hatching Results. She's kind of a school counseling legend. She provided this as part of her work and her published books with Hatching Results. So look over this self-assessment for accountable, appreciative leadership and reflect on how it applies to you as a leader now, as a graduate student, and a leader in your future role as school counselor. Reflect on how these qualities make for great school counseling leaders. So thinking about the three areas of leadership being a decision, being an obligation, that it's hard work. And if you're able to actually kind of see where you would score yourself on this Likert scale under each of these three areas, I think it's really important for us to continually reflect as ourselves as leaders so that we can continue to grow and lead. But again, this self-assessment really helps for that accountable reflection. Moving to advocacy, our next essential skill. When analyzing data, school counselors may realize that intervention students need is not a small group or individual counseling, but rather the school counselor's advocacy to change an existing educational policy, procedure, or practice that may be contributing to student inequities and denying students access to opportunities. As school counselors, we are in a unique role to see some of these barriers firsthand. Socially just interventions for system changes can have a great impact on students, at times more than individual counseling and small group counseling alone. So a school counselor's key role is advocating for the academic achievement for every student and leading those efforts to ensure that every student meets high academic, career, and personal social standards throughout their K-12 experience. So beyond our work with them at our level. School counselors ultimately believe, support, and promote every student's opportunity to achieve success in school. School counselors also advocate for students by selecting evidence-based or research-informed activities and interventions whenever possible, and deliver those activities and interventions in a manner that will have the most significant impact on the largest number of students possible. These activities and interventions may be delivered in a classroom like Tier 1 universal efforts, or group settings to have the impact on the most students possible with follow-up to individual students as needed. So that's kind of that work at the 3 tiers. These are some pictures that I shared kind of in my presentation with this, just ways that I have learned to become a better advocate over the year, where we have invited our legislatures into our building. We've had students interview them, talking to them, and also being able to educate them on the role of school counselors, and then visiting our Capitol. This is a great opportunity every February where we can take students to the Capitol. And again, at that point, you are utilizing so many of our essential skills with advocacy, leadership, and collaboration at that point. Also, when you look at advocacy, school counselors use data to determine which students require academic or behavioral interventions and ensure those interventions for high need students and underrepresented groups. That's what makes it equitable, right? So those data sources are listed on the right there. You will see there are so many different data sources we can utilize to check for those barriers and where inequity lies within our district, our system in general, and with our buildings. So examples of system change issues could be disproportionate discipline rates for boys, students of color, students with disabilities, low percentages of poor or working class students taking college placement exams. Maybe it's disproportionate number of students of color or males that are suspended or expelled. Maybe it's a high number of bilingual students scoring low on state exams, boys of color overrepresented in special education, underrepresentation of students of color in advanced courses, race, social class, and gender gaps in students graduating college eligible. These are all ways that we could create system change. School counselors also use data to advocate for student needs and the school counseling program. So again, data can be used to promote reduction of an inappropriate non-school counseling related task, which then creates more time to address student needs revealed in the data. School counselors cannot advocate for student achievement and success without accessing, collecting, and reviewing outcome data. We'll talk about data more within this course later on in the following weeks, but without a thorough understanding of the most recent data on student achievement, attendance, and behavior, school counselors are blindly implementing activities and interventions that may or may not lead to better results for students with the greatest need. If we're not using our data to make decisions on our interventions, that means we are just doing what we think would benefit kids, what we feel is right. And we're not letting the real need, the real data guide our work. So with advocacy, along the way, as I've become more aware of what advocacy all means, I've learned about the 10 levels of advocacy. And this was really helpful for me to have objective ways to learn how to grow as a school advocate. So the first one being student advocacy. How are students different? As number one, student advocacy. How are students different as a result of our school counseling program? 2, parent advocacy. Are we communicating and informing parents on what we do as school counselors? 3, administrator advocacy, where we're gaining insight and understanding of each other's role and helping all students achieve collaboratively together. 4, school district advocacy. So getting on those leadership committees, getting on those parent and teacher together meeting agendas, getting involved, taking opportunities to share again what we do. I also think it's important, again, for you guys to see as part of the school counseling evaluation supplement what ASCA considers highly effective for advocacy. And again, being able to know objective ways that we can continue to grow in this area. So finishing off those 10 levels of advocacy, you will see that there is community advocacy, where again, we're working with businesses and organizations and incorporating those community resources into our program, either providing remedial services or providing resources for our students. Maybe we're using them as part of a parent event or mental health community conversation night. Day on the Hill was that picture a couple slides ago where I was outside the Capitol. So being able to participate and get involved in ISCA government relations and being able to go to the Capitol and actually talk to your legislatures. That's when we kind of move on to state association advocacy. Are you an ISCA member? Federal advocacy. Are you a member of our national organization? Iowa Department of Education, continuing to be informed on what's going on right now with school reform issues in Iowa. And 10, advocate for yourself. Focusing on results of your program, view accountability as a necessity. Exhibit high energy and energize others, and execute by consistently turning vision into desired results. Woohoo! Okay, so ideas for self. Some ideas I think are working with a community resource to address a problem and devise an advocacy plan. So I love personally working with Riverview Center or Allen Women's Health here in the Cedar Valley. They have come in to provide amazing remedial services for students that they are specifically trained to help. So Riverview, I have a teen advocate that comes and meets with a couple of our students that have experienced sexual abuse within their past. And they are trained in a way that they can work with these students, go to court with these students, and beyond. Also, another idea, identify a systems problem, gain insight from those that are most affected by that, and implement advocacy at a systems level. What are some small steps could lead to bigger impact for that? Also attend Visit the Hill Day in February and speak with your senator and House representative regarding problems that must be addressed at a policy or legislative level. Use a use of time calculator, that template's provided by ASCA, to support a reduction in activities limiting the school counselor's capacity for delivery of student services. So if school counselors are doing things that aren't within a role of a school counselor, using that template and that tool can be a great way to advocate for yourself. All right, moving to the next slide, still continue with advocacy. I love how ISCA provided this 3-tier approach to advocacy. And I think, again, providing objective ways that we understand how we're becoming greater advocates. I feel like I've been able to take some of these objective ways and kind of move throughout the levels. I think if we're also looking at this twofold question, ideas for students, student empowerment and acting with students, taking students to visit the Hill, encouraging students to use their voice to speak to their legislatures as too. Also doing student-led lessons on classroom discussion. So we had a whole segment of April Awareness where our student council members were going in and advocating for an issue that our students should be aware on, and that was them advocating for that. I also think if I were to go back to some ideas for self, beyond ideas for students, I think joining the ISCA Government Relations Committee can help you be more informed with what's going on with the Department of Ed in Iowa. Also seek out professional development to improve your cultural competence. Using the school counselor evaluation tool like I've been providing for what's highly effective versus non-effective. Fill out the school counseling program assessment once you're in a school and working towards the national model and a comprehensive program. And again, invite those state legislatures to your school and to your counseling meetings. Moving on to collaboration. So school counselors work with stakeholders inside and outside the school. We utilize a vast array of support for students that cannot be achieved by any individual or school alone. School counselors build a sense of community, which creates an environment encouraging success for all students. What a cool way for us to be that person and part of that team in each building, that we're able to build a sense of community, right? So here again, within that evaluation supplement, seeing what makes us highly effective collaborators. I think it's so great to challenge our work. So going back to being collaborators inside school, that would be, encouraging school counselors to collaborate with students, teachers, administrators, and school staff to work toward common goals of equity and access and academic success for all students. Along with that, accessing, collecting, and analyzing supplemental information is an excellent way to promote collaboration with students, teachers, administrators, school staff, families, and other stakeholders. Supplemental information requires a diligent focus on the thoughts, ideas, and beliefs of others, which can inform better understanding of data and better decisions made by the school counselor. So part of that supplemental information is getting information on our stakeholders based on their observation and experience with students in their class. Maybe that targeted group based on need is going to create our next small group for intervention. So examples of being collaborators outside school. School counselors create effective collaborative relationships with parents, community members, and community agencies. We can tap into resources that may not be available at the school. When we look at collaboration, there are 7 varieties of collaboration that ASCA has talked about. Interprofessional, youth-centered, parent-centered, family-centered. So again, I'm not going to read those verbatim. You guys can kind of read what collaboration looks like at those first 4, but then going to 5, 6, 7 on the next column, intra-organizational, inter-organizational, and community. So I would say with intra-organizational collaboration inside school with stakeholders also ensure annual student outcome goals align with school data and priorities. Intra-organizational collaboration also includes school counselors collaborating with administrators, data specialists, and other school staff to generate student data reports, maybe analyze that data and create plans to improve student achievement, attendance, and discipline. Right, so here are some great applicable ways to think about collaboration. Characteristics of effective collaborative relationships. You guys have already been a part of a collaborative cohort, maybe a collaborative group or team at some point within your experience and journey to where you are now. I think it's important that school counselors ask themselves, am I collaborating with teachers to help improve student behavior? Am I working to improve school culture? Am I leading the way to find, create, and implement anti-bullying and harassment programs? Have I helped establish a conflict resolution curriculum, maybe an advisory curriculum or program? Do I provide support to staff on working effectively with students with special needs? Do I run small groups to help students cope with specific issues? School counselors ultimately are in the perfect position to both support and lead collaborative efforts needed to achieve student success and to ensure student needs remain in the center of all decisions. So ideas for yourself. We as school counselors can be in collaborative teams, district committees. We can present professional development for staff as a department, so doing it with your departmental team. We can present professional development with our counselors as part of a team for other counselors. Again, as a team, consider ramping, creating a new partnership with a community resource, collaborate and invite community members in to speak to students about their career possibly, and then ideas for students, collaborating with students regarding student-led initiatives, student-led lessons and classroom discussion, also student-led large group presentations, kind of like I showed with LEAD earlier. I think these are all great examples. Here you will see a group of Girls Circle on the left meeting as part of a 7th grade girls organization. I collaborate with Jill, who's kind of to the left there, with Allen Women's Health and Together for Youth, and she comes in and facilitates that small group as part of remedial services. And then the other picture on the right is me working with our lead planning team on creating that presentation and workshop for our 7th grade girls. So much fun collaborating, and we all just cram into my office. It's so fun. Lastly, systemic change. So our unique role allows us to act as a systems change agent to create an environment promoting and supporting student success. To be an effective change agent, school counselors must demonstrate an understanding of the impact of cultural, social, environmental influences on student success and opportunities. School counselors work proactively with students, parents, teachers, administrators, and the community to remove those systemic barriers, ranging from state or federal law to district policies to school classroom procedures and attitudes. We can promote systemic change that will create a learning environment where all students succeed. It's imperative that school counselors know how to analyze their school data to even identify how school, district, and state educational policies and procedures or practices support or impede, make that barrier to student success. Again, you will see kind of what makes us as school counselors highly effective as systems change agents. I think it's so important as part of a school system and a comprehensive school program that we're modeling a program that can have a positive impact on many other parts of the school system that lead to student achievement and overall success holistically. Again, we're in that unique position to identify these barriers to student achievement and barriers to positive school culture. And with access to the school-wide data, school counselors can identify barriers and gaps that prevent students from achieving that readiness for college and career. We can use data to support leadership, advocacy, and collaboration designed to create systemic change. And again, as presenting this to you, this is not all figured out and done well within your first, second, third, fourth year as school counselors. This is incremental. This is something that you take baby steps in as you continue to learn more about and grow as a leader, collaborator, advocate, and systems change agent. So ASCA talks about the 6 stages of systemic change, going from maintenance of the old system, awareness, exploration, transition, emergence of the new infrastructure, and predominance of the new system. And I'm not going to read through those, as you can read those on the slide. But again, this does not occur overnight, and us becoming better in these 4 themes and essential skills does not occur overnight or in any one given school year. One small change, though, can lead to another, which can lead to an even larger and more impactful change in the future. So it's so important to remember that small change is something to celebrate. Systemic change happens through the sustained involvement of critical stakeholders in the school setting, including and often led by us as school counselors. So again, leadership, advocacy, and collaboration are key strategies needed to create that last theme, that last essential skill of systemic change. So examples and ideas to consider, maybe removing barriers to access rigorous courses. Maybe it's increasing access to educational opportunities, creating clear guidelines for addressing inappropriate behavior such as bullying and harassment. Another example is increasing awareness of school safety issues, or promoting knowledge and skills for working in a multicultural work setting. Another idea, add address over or underrepresentation of specific groups and programs, special ed, honors classes, AP courses. It's also important that we model inclusive language. Or last idea, create an environment that encourages any student or group to feel comfortable to come forward with problems. Success resulting from systemic change could lead to increased promotion and graduation rates, increased participation in educational opportunities, a decrease in discipline or suspension rates, increased numbers of students completing high school, college, and career ready, and increased attendance at school. Wow, all great things. So you guys, closing up, next are the discussion questions, which you will be answering on UIU Learn. So if you will go over there and answer these questions, talking about who have you seen demonstrate effective leadership, collaboration, and advocacy skills, and why? What did they do or say that could help model these school counseling essential skills? If I were to answer this question in the forum, I would probably talk about my dad. I think I have always learned so many great leadership skills from him. He was police chief here in Cedar Falls several years ago. But during that decade, he created a program called Chief University and would collaborate and work with police officers at every level who were interested in working towards the role of chief. And so he would collaborate with them and teach them those skills. And I just think that demonstrated to me his work in creating that program, just the value that he saw in leadership and instilling and developing that leadership in his officers. And yeah, that's something that I would really say stuck out to me. And again, I would probably create more what he did, what he said. Second question, what experiences have you had thus far that have prepared you as a future school counselor, leader, collaborator, and advocate to work towards positive systemic change? So thinking about your experiences, maybe in high school, college, graduate school, maybe the world of work, what experiences have you had that have prepared you? If I were to share any thinking about maybe when I was in my graduate stage of life in my early 20s, I would probably think about, serving as a paraeducator in an elementary school while I was attending grad school. I felt like I learned a lot about advocacy as I worked with students with special needs, one with autism, where I would kind of be in a position to advocate for him and his skills within the classroom. I feel like another example that would stick out to me is I was a cheer coach during my time in college, and that taught me a lot about leadership and collaboration. I would work with students on creating cheers and dances and performances together, and I learned a lot about instilling leadership within those captains, within those cheerleaders, but also being one and modeling that as well. I was also a camp counselor at a kids camp called Kanakuk, and I learned a lot about leadership and eventually working my way to being a unit coordinator that oversaw 4 cabins of girls. And so I learned a lot about leadership and collaboration through those efforts too, as I would collaborate with the other unit coordinators and the camp directors. So those would be experiences. Obviously, I feel like I have a slew of experiences now being into my career this far, but thinking about my time as a graduate student, what I would have said as an example up until that point, those would be my examples in answering that discussion question. Now, if you are following along on the slideshow, this would be a live link to the Leadership Practices article. Make sure to click there to read. And again, week 4 activities, you guys, so you're watching this video, following along on the slideshow. We just went through the discussion questions, but responding to those on UIU Learn. Read that Leadership Practices article, and we're going to be Zooming next week. Now, thinking about next week and the following weeks, this is what is ahead. So our week 5 Zoom is going to be covering the managed component and data. We've been talking so much about data just in this week's focus today, but man, we're going to really hit it hard in the coming weeks, especially in week 5. So if you want to see what's ahead in week 6 and beyond, obviously it's on your syllabus, but this is another place where you can get a heads up on what is coming up next. So I want to wish you all a great week, and I look forward to seeing you guys in week 5 and learning more together as we talk about the managed component and data-driven practices. Hope you guys all have a great week, and I will see you soon.